All right. We think we got more coming in. Is that going to be it for the
Yeah, I'll
moment?
just let them in as they come.
Okay, great. And if everybody would be kind enough to mute your mics, that would be great. We know those phone calls and tea kettles and doorbells and everything start ringing. We want to keep our conversation going. So, once again, let me say welcome, Lewis Johnson. And I am actually in the arena here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We just finished the second of four American Track League indoor meets that was live on ESPN2. So, this arena was not full of people, but full of athletes, and significant because as we have witnessed really a devastating hit to not just communities and people, but also to sports. It is so important to see sports coming back, and it is so important for those of us who love this sport to see it come back to the track. So, Paul Doyle, who created this series, brought the first meet to bear last weekend with little to no sponsorship, all of it out of his pocket. And then there was a big step up by some folks this week, and we had a stronger production, I think. So I was running around here interviewing people with a mask on, socially distancing with a microphone, and we had a great time. So make sure you catch the next meets coming up next week, and then the week after that. And it's just great to see the sport of track and field back. And of course, for everybody who's a part of this great panel, this is our love. This is our life. We love it all. It's in our blood. And our special guest today is one of the icons of the sport, not just in America, but globally because of his performance and because of his stand for justice. So I just want to welcome you all and glad you're back with us. Charles, once again, man, we have to thank you for having the idea and bringing us all together. And so as we get ready for event number 5 here, what are your thoughts about today and having track back and having this great gentleman on?
Hey, first of all, like I always say, it's just an honor and a pleasure to be able to have this platform to share with one another and be able to just I'm just at a loss right now, but just be in a place together with everything that is going on, to be able to, use this platform to uplift everyone and help everyone to grow and become better. It's nothing but love here. And,
Yeah,
to have track and field back, I'm just very happy for those athletes as well. Hopefully everyone can stay safe with what's going on. And, to have Mr. Carlos, I'm just done. Uh, to, I'm just waiting to hear everything
yes.
you say. And like you say, he's such an icon and such a big part of the sport. It's just a beautiful thing to have him here as well as everyone else.
Absolutely. And Charles is, for those of you who may not know, sitting in his gym there in San Marcos, Texas, with the bar and standards right behind him that he won his Olympic gold medal in 1996. So I always love to see that behind him, as well as his boards that he has created a very unique device there. We'll talk more about all those things, but we want to continue to have this discussion every month about achieving excellence and greatness and having goals, what have you. And so we'll continue with that theme today with John Carlos. And so for those of you who may be new to this, to our event and what we do, um, you can never see this enough. You can never see these performances of these leaping legends who set the Olympic world on fire, and their moments still live. So, if you would allow me, I'd like to play this video one more time so you can see it, and then you all also are going to see the historic moment from John Carlos and the rest of the gentlemen who made history at the 1968 Olympics. And it's whoever that is, if you could please mute your phone, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And so here is, I'll wait for that person to mute. Thank you. Do you have the sound?
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Off the runway back at the 1984 Olympic trials. And now he has Banks's American record in the to win this gold medal. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Every time I see it, it looks ridiculous.
Yep. And so is this.
Yeah.
Now listen.
Very simple protest. We thought that the way to get people's attention
imagine, was through shock treatment. The demonstration itself consisted of three individuals: Tommy Smith, Peter Norman, and John Carlos. The artifacts that was involved in the demonstration was black glove, beads on one's neck, a black scarf on one's neck, a black shirt to cover up the USA jersey. My uniform was open to illustrate that I was concerned about the blue-collar workers of this nation that's always forgotten. We wore shoeless socks out there to demonstrate that people of color was very poor in the greatest nation of the world that didn't go to the moon and land a rocket ship a half mile from where they said they were going to land, but they couldn't stop hunger or rodents or roaches or what have you from the ghettos of America. We was demonstrating bigotry, prejudice, bias, mayhem, and the only vehicle that we had was through our endeavors on the athletic field.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Carlos to this show. Thank you so much, John.
Man,
Muted. You're muted, John. Thank you. There we go. John, welcome. So great to see you.
I'm so honored to be here, to see so many familiar faces. But let me start by saying, you throw that word icon out so loosely. I just want you to realize that every individual that's in this program right now are just that, icons. They're icons to me. I'm sure they're icons to the world as well. There's no one performance that you can stake a claim to say that this individual is an icon, because you have to come through iconic jungle, so to speak, to be noticed. It's many individuals that can say, I have a dream to accomplish something in life. But we say we had 46 presidents, and they call them, no matter where they go in life, they call a president.
Mm.
The Olympic fame is the same difference. There's so many people in the world that walk through and say, man, as an athlete, I would love to go to the Olympics. That's why I started the phrase years ago, once an Olympian, always an Olympian. That tag never leaves.
Right.
These individuals are icon. Don't put me on the shelf by myself, because there's room for them as well and others to come.
Well, I mean, that is an incredible statement, because, all of us look up to you for not just what you stood for back in '68, but also what you endured because of that statement. And it took many, many years, maybe just until recently, for people to understand and have respect and show the deference that you were owed for the statement that you made. You are correct. There are some icons on here. This has been a great event to be a part of with Jackie and Bob and Kenny and Charles. But I bet you if I start with Jackie, they would probably say that what you did is iconic and to the highest level. Jackie, what do you think?
Oh, and I guess when you think of the athletic feat, you train every day, you train to be the best, and all you want to do is to get out there and perform. Now, what comes with that, a lot of times you're not really aware, there's a gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal, but you want to get out there and you want to be respected for your hard work. And it's not just you, your coaches and everyone, your family, everybody who believed in you, who was on that journey with you. And so to be on this platform today with John is amazing, and on so many levels, from the standpoint of not just the athletic feat, but at the height of their careers, that they were willing to take a stance that, even though today people are talking about the significance of it, but this is deep rooted in our sport, track and field, and how important it is that we're able to celebrate him, but also be a part of this journey in hopes of seeing some real change, in the future, not just performance wise, but monetary wise,
Right. All those things. Kenny, you seem like you have a hard time containing yourself. Go for it, my man.
I do, man. Mr. Carlos is like an iconic person in my life. Not just track, but just his strength and his power. When you talk to this young man, like personally, it's just like having a big brother. He's just amazing at what he does. And what I try to transpire to everybody when I compete, it wasn't about competing to be the best that I can do. It just want to make the world know that we're great people and we're honest, we're great at what we do, not because we're performing well. It's about being a great person.
Yeah.
And to have that platform every time I get onto the track was that representation. It came right through Mr. Carlos because I watched him be so savvy. I watched him be so cool. I watched him be so amazing at how he handled himself by the things that he did then in 1968, but also every day to this day that I know him as hopefully a good friend. I know that's how amazing he is. And that's how I want to represent myself in public. And I think that's amazing. And this is probably will be the most amazing things that we do today or for a long time, because that man right there he made me who I am, kind of with sports savvy, but amazingness with trying to help other people to understand the gravity of not just sport, but being a better man. And I think he's amazing.
Beautiful. Mr. Carlos, you got to listen to two more. You got to listen to two more. Bob Beamon, the stage is yours.
I'm starting to tear up.
Take it in.
Bro.
That's all right. That's all right. How does it make you feel to hear that? Tell me.
Oh man, it's phenomenal. I was listening to Jackie, and I was thinking that Jackie was a young lady in the sport. And listen to her, I say, I can't call Jackie a young lady or my daughter. She done rose up to be my sister now. You know, growing to be so strong and so right on point. And then to hear Kenny come back and say the things that he said, you know, and Kenny's shown me things in the past. We've worked together in the past, and I've seen things out of Kenny. But just what he expressed there today, that's why I say it kind of making me water up a little bit. To hear individuals say that they have that much respect and honor for me. I mean, I've heard so many people want to throw bottles at me for so long. So for people to say nice things like this, man, it's emotional.
Well, it should be. You deserve every word of it. And Bob Beamon, you've been up on the biggest stage with him, and you all at the same game. So what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, John and I, we grew up in just about the same neighborhood in New York. And we have a lot in common. And we became friends from high school into college, and then on the big stage of the Olympic Games. And just to make a very important point, that when we look and observe John as an athlete, we also have to kind of try to understand, or maybe he can make comment to the point, how could he talk about the social issues and be able to concentrate on his training, his ability to stay focused. Because I think today is basically what John was doing back in 50 some years ago in terms of social awareness and things like this here. But it would be kind of interesting if we could have maybe John talk about the two things that had to come up and be a part of, was the social and the athletic part of it. How did he stay strong? How did he continue to be motivated as an athlete? How did you stay in it? Because there's so much extra stuff that we don't even know today how he could perform at that level with all that pressure. But anyway.
And that's a great question. Let's ask him. And John, as you answer that, we continue to talk about these ideas of achieving excellence. That's why we do this every month. That's our foundational theme. So as Bob Beamon's question is, how did you achieve excellence in athletics as well as manage all these social justice issues that you stood for at the same time? How did you do that?
So am I gonna do that before Charles get a chance to give his introduction?
Okay.
Well, right now, I don't want to break for Bob. Let Charles finish up, and then we'll get to Bob.
Okay, you got it. All right, Charles.
I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet. But over the past year and a half or so, I've had the opportunity to establish a relationship, Mr. Carlos. And I just tell you, still to this day, every time I see his name pop up on my phone, it just it blows me away to be able to say, man, this is Mr. John Carlos, just like with Jackie, Mr. Beam and Kenny. I'm just so appreciative. Not only for what he did with his athletic career, but just him as a human being, and being able to share his life, his journey, to help me to grow into a better person. I just have the utmost respect and love for him.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. So these are all the Olympic champions who are icons in our sport talking about you, the ultimate icon, John. And that's just the way it is. I mean, and how does that make you feel? And how do you, as we addressed Bob's question?
I'm very humbled, man. Very humbled by what all of them had to say, even your introduction at the start. But to answer Bob's question is, how do I maintain my focus in social justice issues, as well as how do I maintain my focus in my athletics? And then again, how do I focus my attention to my friends? Well, I think that my mom and dad, let's start off with them and say that I think that they put together a damn good formula to embellish upon me, to have concern for your fellow man, to realize that you will come across many people in life. All people are not your friends. You have to choose who you choose as your friends.
Man.
To understand that to get to that level, to expose what God has given you and what your parents combined with God have given you, you have to use what tool God gave you. You know, everybody's got a little basket on the side, and he gave all of us gifts. All of these individuals that here on this stage today have been blessed enough to realize the gift that God gave them. I was blessed in that same sense, but I had one cushion in my mind. That cushion was that I have to realize that I can perfect the gift that he gave me in order to expound upon the other issues that I was concerned about, such as humanity. How I was concerned about whether my friends were being treated fairly in the sports or the endeavors they were in. How I was concerned about what is happening on the track in terms of athletics. I enjoyed running track, but it wasn't about with me winning the medal or being the first place guy as much as it was saying, if I was there, I let them know that I was there. I got a medal. I wasn't concerned about winning the first place medal to show who I was to society. All I had to do was prove to Johnny Carlos how good I was in my Pacific sport, and I can live with that. I don't care what society thought about my abilities. I always felt like I had the ability to either do something or leave it for someone else to do. I think I exemplified it in the Olympics. You know, people have questions about, you know, the race in Mexico City. I could have won that race hands down, but I wasn't concerned about the race because the race had no value to me winning that medal. Why should I take a medal from an individual that cherishes medals? I was more concerned about humanity. And that's what my focus comes in and say, I had to separate the two. I had to separate my concern about humanity and my athleticism to the point where each of them had to take care of their own significant parts in endeavor. Like after the race was over, my biggest statement to myself was, wow, now let's get busy. Let's do what I came here for, was to make that statement for humanity.
And a big statement you made, one that really lives forever. And here's a question I wanted to ask you for a long time. It's kind of two parts. Number one, were you remotely aware of what was going to happen by the act that you guys were going to take on that podium in 68. And then when you fast forward to today and you look at what Colin Kaepernick did by taking a knee and having his message hijacked by some, but he took it for social justice. And there was a much shorter amount of time for people to accept the fact that that's what he was doing and it wasn't anything else. But you all, for your act, it seemed like years before people would acknowledge it. And even recently being inducted into the Hall of Fame did you have an idea how it was going to be received or what might happen to you all?
Well, let me just say, I think I've interviewed you in the past or interviewed with you in the past.
Yeah.
And I made a statement about myself having a vision when I was a kid. I was in a movie as a kid. And the same thing that taking place in this movie that I saw, or this vision that I saw, premonition, with what you care to call it. I was like 7 years old, 8 years old. And I was in a farm on a box. It was actually a milk crate. I'm standing in this farm and I'm in a grass field. I would think it was a stadium, but I didn't know what a stadium was at that time. But I could hear the roar of the people, the spontaneous applause. And I said, yippee-ki-yay. And as a young kid, it takes you a second or two to realize they must be applauding for you. And I went to raise my left hand, and I always tell myself I can't figure it out because I always had the right hand power. And I went to raise my left hand to wave to the people, and just where my hand froze in time on that victory stand in 1968, that's where it froze in that vision. And people said, well, why did it freeze in the vision like that? See, because it's like somebody hit a switch, and all the happiness and joy turned to venom and anger, cussing and spit, screaming where to go. All of those type of things started taking place to the point where it shook me up. So when all the dust settled, it makes you realize that, for my father said to my mother, he said, "Vi, look like God has something special for this kid. We're going to have to wait and see what it is." So when I went to Mexico City, that was the first thing that hit my mind, because the exact same thing that happened when I was 23 years old happened when I was 8 years old. So yes, I had a pre-clue that, what was going to happen in Mexico City in terms of the people being shocked, in terms of the people being angry. But at the same time, in that vision, the creator, whoever he may be, said to me, I have you in my hands. Don't have no fear for nothing. And I think I've been like that all my life, where I don't have fear for anything. I think the only time I ever got nervous in my life, really nervous in my life, is when I was in the New Yorker hotel downtown from across the street from the old Madison Square Garden. And I was sitting in the room and the door opened and Dr. King walked in. I think that's the only time that I had a little shakiness.
Wow.
Other than that, none whatsoever. I'm straightforward with whatever I have to do. Now, what's the second half of your question? I'm sorry.
Well, before I get to that, you can't just drop that Dr. King, open the door and stop right there. Please continue with that and explain to us what that moment was like and what the conversation was like. Tell us about that. My goodness.
I just come back from East Texas State University. East Texas was probably a racist state. As a young kid, Bob could tell you we went to school, but at that time we had no significant value for school or education. So where my geography should have been in my head, it wasn't. So I go to East Texas State, and I was young. I was married my senior year in high school. I had a daughter, and I tell everybody, say, I got married for love. My wife wasn't pregnant until after we got married. I just want to make that clear for the record.
All right.
So anyway, there was no shotgun wedding there. So anyway, we went to East Texas State, and when I got to East Texas State, I began to realize that people of color had a rough time in this state, because I noticed in the airport right there, white restroom only. And then it said colors, didn't say only colors, and whoever would come in there. But even greater than that, I noticed the white restroom was pristine, the black restroom was bad. I left East Texas State because of the racism that was taking place. East Texas State, where I went to school, was the last school to integrate in the state of Texas. So to save from going to jail from hurting somebody or having them hurt my wife or my kid, myself, I migrated back to New York. I'm there helping my mother paint the kitchen one day. I believe it was a Saturday, I'm not sure. And the phone rings. I'm up on the ladder and my mom says, John, this Professor Edwards would like to talk to you. And I was to this day trying to figure out how he got my mother's number. I don't remember giving it to him. But anyway, I get on the phone. He said, John, he said, it's Harry. I said, hey, Harry, how you doing? Hey, listen, man, it's people having a meeting downtown and they asked me to invite you. You think you can make it? And I looked at my mom and said, Mom, they got a meeting going on and they want to know whether I can get there. She said, well, if they invite you, you need to be there. So I said, okay, yeah, man, I can get there. So he tells me to come down to the Americana Hotel, across the street from the old Madison Square Garden. I go there and I'm in the lobby. And I'm gonna tell you, to be honest with you, I'm in the lobby and I'm blown away because I'm a little thug in New York at the time. And I'm looking around at the chandelier in the hotel. As long as I've been in New York, I might have been in the hotel as a youngster 2 times. But this particular time, I'm looking around and say, man, I could steal that chandelier from my mother. I could take that sofa over there because my mother liked nice things. So I finally shook that off and I went to the desk and I approached him and I said, I'm looking for SCLC. I didn't have a clue what SCLC was. When they told me where to go and I went up there and I knocked on the door, and it was a very nice guy that opened the door, man. When I saw him, I said, it's him, but it can't be him. It's not him, but it is him. That's going back and forth in my mind. And this is what happens when I see icons, because it happened with another individual in my life too. But he opens the door and he says, come on in. And I was shocked because when I saw the statue of this guy, it was vice versa. This individual was Andrew Young. I thought Andrew Young was like 6'4", 6'3", but looked like he was opposite of that. That's why I was saying it's him, but it ain't him, but his face never changed. And the first thing hit my mind is, God, the photographer must have been laying on his back, shooting up at him. Yeah. Then I get in the room, man, and when we get in the room, it was so many, I would say, figuring that, what would I want to say? Luminaries walking around the office, people that my mother, my father, my brothers, and I would watch on TV that was in the civil rights movement with Dr. King. I'm in there and I'm saying to myself, wow, well, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And when about 25 minutes later, a side door open, I guess a bedroom within the apartment there, or the room, hotel room, and out walks Dr. King. Man, I was like almost like turning to petrified wood. And all I could think of was my mother saying, man, my mother needs to be a bug on my lapel or a rock in my pocket. She needs to be here to see this. And then Dr. King came out, he looked at me, and I don't know whether he looked at me, he looked at everybody, but he saw I was a little nervous. And that's the only time I've ever been nervous in my life. And he actually started cracking a few jokes. And his time out to say, if Dr. King wanted to be on Saturday Night Live or stand-up comic, he could have did that too. But that was the essence of me meeting Dr. King at that particular time. And I always said it was a very short time that I had with him, but it was so much that he gave me in that short period of time, because what culminated in Mexico City in 1968 had a lot to do with what I got from him in that short meeting, because he made me understand what it was to be potent enough to get the attention of society, and at the same time be as nonviolent as it is potent. Mm. So, we want to make a statement. And I'm thinking that we're going to make a statement. We got to make one that's going to be potent enough, shocking enough, revealing enough. But yet and still, we ain't throwing no bombs and we ain't putting no caps on nobody. So that was my experience with Dr. King.
And to be clear, that happened before you went to Mexico City in the Olympics. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Unbelievable. So if I were to fast forward and say through that incredible experience, you're obviously inspired by that meeting with Dr. King, maybe giving you even more strength in what you believed and what you had to do with that platform, going back to the dream from the young man. You guys paid a heavy price for what you did in terms of people not understanding and vilified and those types of things. And when you look forward to modern day society, athletes standing up for social justice, how does that make you feel? I mean, how do you make an understanding of the price you paid over so many years, and to see people now who seem to have had those ideas more accepted, at least much faster in our society today? How does that make you feel?
Well, my father used to do something, man, that was so unique. if I did something that my father didn't particularly understand, he would tell me, say, son, you got 48 hours to figure out how you going to express to me what you did and why you did. Okay. Some days I could do that and give my explanation as to why I did it. Other days I couldn't give any explanation other than what's in my heart, my spirit about knowing what I did was right. So if he didn't buy that, then I had to take a licking, but I had to keep on ticking. So relative to what happened in society from Mexico City, I had to come to a formula in my mind how to deal with it. And the formula I came up with is something that I used to have when I was a kid. And I'm sure all of us had this at one point. And that's this serum called castor oil. You familiar with castor oil?
Oh Lord, I'm
Eh?
familiar with 4 tablespoons of castor oil one time. One time. That's it.
My mother used to bring that castor oil, big tablespoon. They take this, and I said, Mom, I'm not taking it. She
Oh
went and
no.
got my father. And my father said to me, he said, son, he said, your brothers take this stuff
not doing
every day. What's wrong with you? I said, Pop, do you taste it? That's the nastiest stuff on the planet. And he said to me, he said, son, he said, let me ask you a question. He said, do you realize what castor oil does for you? And I said, no. He said, how many parties you missed on the weekend? I thought about it. None. How many days you missed in school? I'm begrudging. None. He said, did it ever dawn on you that that nasty castor oil is the reason why you make them parties on the weekends and you never miss school? He said, son, it doesn't have to taste good for you in order for it to be good to you. So I took that formula and said, that's what I was for society. I am castor oil. So relative to what happened in 1968 and the years that had gone by, it took that much time for them to realize that what took place in 1968 through John Carlos, although I didn't like it because it didn't taste good, it didn't feel good, the bottom line is now I understand that it was good for me. And I live with it from that perspective.
That's deep. That is incredible. That is some wisdom and information I never thought I would hear. And I now understand how you did that. I don't think it's fair for me to sit here and ask all these questions. Somebody else want to jump in and ask something, because this is just incredible information from one of our sporting legends. Jackie, Bob.
Hey,
Tom,
listen,
anybody?
John.
Wait.
John,
Bob, you call me out. You call me Mr. Carlos, or you call me Dr. Carlos. Understand? Just
Dr. Carlos, I think most people don't know where your real roots come from. Many people know that you're from New York, but you know where the family, where the blood runs thick from you, and you have the opportunity to find your other family members. You might want to make a comment on that.
Thank you. Well, my dad was born in a little town in South Carolina called Camden, South Carolina. And my dad was in the First World War. So that's why I get history about Black life way back when. And my mom was born in Cuba, just outside of Havana, Cuba. And matter of fact, I think I might have my paralysis of track and field from my mom. I think my mom in her early days in life, I think she used to run track in Cuba as well. I've heard my mom talk Spanish. I've had my relatives come in from Cuba talk Spanish. And I remember when we were kids, my mother wanted to teach us Spanish and my father stopped her. And as I've grown, I was always kind of concerned as to, Daddy, why did you stop mom from teaching us Spanish? And my father said, well, son, I didn't know any Spanish. And your uncles and aunties would come in from Cuba and they couldn't speak English. So your mom would be speaking Spanish and they'd be speaking Spanish. He said, I'll be darned if I let my kids start speaking Spanish. Everybody talking and I don't know what they're saying about me. So I told my Daddy, I think you might have made a big mistake. But he said, son, this is what you have to live with. I speak English, you go speak English. So that's how that went. But the greatest thing that happened for me and my brother before my mom died, my mom had turned 87 years old, and we had a reunion. It was like so many people came out for my mother's birthday. So we say it was birthday / reunion. So everybody had my mother's gifts, at 87 years old, I'm thinking, what do I get my mom at 87 years old? What kind of gift could I get her? And I'm standing in the back talking to my brother, and all I gave my mother was a card. And she opens the card and she said, Johnny, where's my gift? And I said to her, I said, but actually my brother had to poke me, said, Mama calling you. And I'll be running my mouth so much. So I turned around, and just as I'm turning my head, God said, take her home. And I said, Mom, how'd you like to go home for your birthday? And my mom, grew up in New York. Well, her married life, early life was in New York, but this was happening down there in North Carolina. So she said, oh no, I don't want to go back to New York and slip down and break my hip. I said, Mom, listen to what I'm saying. How would you like to go home? And when it dawned on her that I was talking about Cuba, her eyes opened up like silver dollars. And my brother said, man, I think you hit a grand slam. And we had to go and getting the visas and so forth to go in and certification to get into the country. I think that was one of the highlights of my life, to take my mother back home, because my mother left Cuba when she was 17 and she had never gone back. So to take her home, and I think the woman that taught my mother so much, my mother had a chance to meet this woman again after all them years. Little woman, I'll never forget, this woman was so little. And when I bent down to grab her, she gave me a strong hug around my neck. And I said to myself, my God. But I looked at my mother in terms of how happy my mother was just to go back to her roots and be able to tell me the stories. And for me to be able to tease my mom and say, Mom, who is Jose? What are you talking about, Jose? I say, I see on the tree a carbon says, love forever, Jose and Vioris. And my mom, what did you see? What? So I'm just teasing her. But I saw something in Cuba that I'd never seen before in my life too. It was a sign for me, like coming home. And when I saw standing on my porch of my uncle, I'm standing on the porch and I see these rainbows forming. I see the rainbows come, there's one rainbow, and then another rainbow come on top of that, and a third rainbow, and all of them had to split between them. I've seen two rainbows together like that, but I've never seen three rainbows in my life. And I'm looking at the rainbows, and I was looking at how poor the people were there. I mean, they didn't have nothing because we had all the embargoes against Cuba for so many years. It just gave me a prelude as to really how poor people of color are, not just in the United States, but on a worldwide level.
Incredible.
Mr. Carl, you and I need to go back to Cuba because I spend a lot of time there with an event that we do. We need to get together to Havana and have a good time with the athletes and the people.
I'm ready when you
over there. They want to embrace us. It would be an amazing time for me and you to go over there, or Charlie, Mr. Lewis, just go over there and embrace it, because it's an amazing experience.
Kenny, I think what we should do, we should get a team of athletes to go over there to spread goodwill, to spread love, and to spread knowledge. Just imagine.
Well, we've done that with Willie Banks. He got me involved with Triple Jump, Project Triple Jump. We take the young triple jump athletes over to Cuba to compete and learn the language and figure out, some kind of strength of what it takes to be great. And with
hey guys, could y'all
now that I now know this.
Hey Charles.
Uh-huh.
Hey man, I got a prostate issue I have to deal with right away.
No worries. Go right ahead. We'll be right here. No problem. So I'm just wondering, for everybody who's on this call, what do you think about this? I mean, you're listening to somebody here who has lived an incredible life, has made a massive statement on the world stage, and just I don't know. I'm even in awe listening to him. What do y'all think? Anybody want to chime in? Any of our?
I'll chime in.
Go right ahead.
Conway.
Hey, Hollis, what's going on?
Conway.
Hey, what's going on?
Good to see you, Frat.
Good. Listen, man, I like a lot of us, I grew up in poverty, around a lot of drugs, a lot of things, and there wasn't a lot of hope, and you didn't see a lot of success. And so people like Mr. Carlos, Bob Beamon, even Jackie, they gave us hope. They gave us inspiration. They gave us a way out. But not only athletically, they showed us that we could make it as human beings. And so I have a lot of respect for them. I appreciate the humbleness of everybody on this call. Snake Charles is one of my best friends, and you know, he will disagree with me, but I hold him in the highest regards. He is his jump in Atlanta is something that I've always dreamed of. So I have so much respect for him. But what we're doing now, whether we think about it athletically or not, is that we're still creating pathways for people behind us who may see no hope. You know, they may only see poverty and frustration and anything negative. It's amazing. So these guys, I'm like Charles when you say they've never called me, but to just be on a call with them, understand that these are the people that allowed me to live the life that I'm living today. And so I'm amazed, I'm honored, I'm thankful, grateful, and any other good word or adjective that you could add to this call.
And Hollis, real quick, because John is back, would you tell everybody real quick how you're paying it forward through your daughter and what she's doing? Let everybody know what your daughter's doing real quick and where they can see her.
Yes.
My middle daughter was Miss Louisiana 2018. She was second runner-up Miss America, and she is currently, which is halted right now, but she's in the brand new Tina Turner production on Broadway. She's one of the Ikettes. Her first try at trying to get on the stage, she hit it on Broadway. But, you know, we talk about this a lot. You know, my kids are living opportunities because I showed them that there was another world out there.
That's right. That's right. And I thought it was important you share that because we talk about greatness here every month. That is something that we are proud of for you because I know as a parent, you know, what we want our kids to do. That's awesome what she's done. And so I want you to share that and I appreciate it. And you got to let us know when that show is going to hit Broadway, when they finally open back up, because I'll be going to New York to see it. There's no question. No question.
They literally told her, though, if she would have looked a little bit more like her dad, she'd have won Miss America.
No way. No way. No
You know that's
way.
not true.
No way. That's true.
But I love the line though.
Never.
I'm
Never.
with the brother. I'm with the brother.
No
If she
way.
look a little bit
No
like
way.
him, she'd have won. No hands,
No.
hands down.
Listen, Mr. Carlos, her
Hey,
name is Holly. I took the S off my name. I'm Hollis, and she's Holly. And I like to tell her that she's one S away from being really special.
Oh,
There you go.
my
Let her know where
goodness.
she came from.
That's hilarious. If does anybody else have a next question? Because if not, I have one.
I won.
Go ahead.
I don't know. My
Hey, your thing keep freezing up
going in and
for some
out.
reason.
I'm not sure and it's consistent, but you know, Mr. I wanted to thank Mr. Carlos because you know, when I have the ability to work with like a Jackie Joyner, training and doing amazing things, all of the through Mr. Carlos. And Mr. Carlos created that kind of nuance to let the world know that we are positive people at what we do. And with, you know, watching Mr. Carlos for all those years, then being able to work and train with another famer, Jackie Joyner, and like Gail Devers and Bobby Kersey, that is like the kind of transparent thing that makes me like have that grit, and it makes me happy, it makes me comfortable. And what I want to thank him to just that what he's done by being a humble man. And Jackie, what you've done is being the most amazing person and amazing woman. And Mr. Austin, what you've done is being, and Mr. Beamon, same thing. Everybody's been amazing, next level. But to Mr. Carlos, you know, on this kind of format and this platform is, man, if any kid knows me or any person knows me, this flourished right through me, Carlos, to let them know how amazing you can be down the road, because you never know and who you're about to be. People like Jackie and Mr. Carlos and Mr. Austin and yourself, Mr. Lewis, you were amazing. Mr. Beamon as well. I just want people to understand that gravity of what we're doing calls because it gets me go jump right now. So appreciate you guys, and I
Ready
really
to go.
do want
Hey,
people
Lord.
on this call to understand of how they have inspired me. So we're on the call together. You tend to be like a legend. I and what legends are, and I think you guys have made my life a better path. Much.
Hey,
So
Awesome, Kenny.
love you
Mr.
guys.
Beeman. Hey,
Yes.
Mr. Beeman,
Right back
think
at you, Kenny.
I think, Mr. Beeman, we need to go and check Kenny's bank account. I bet his bank account must be bursting open right now.
Louis,
Yes, sir.
look, this one is very interesting. So we talk about the struggle that John had just gave you a little tidbit of what he had to go through, but the things that in addition were sort of like behind the scenes. And John can probably expound upon this one. See, John was capable of running anything from 100, from 50 meters to 400 meters.
Like
And
Jackie.
the thing about it was that he was supposed to be in the trials for the 100 meters, and something that really was significant, because I was very disappointed to see that he was probably going to medal in 2 events. But John, you could tell him what happened in the politics of why that situation happened when you should have been the #1 contender in the 100 and the 200.
Well, Bob, that's a very good question. Very good question. Let me just start by saying I can go back to Harriet Tubman and Nat Turner and everybody back in time, Jack Johnson, Paul Robeson, straight on up, Muhammad Ali. Anyone that steps up to the plate to say, I'm not going to go with the crowd, I'm going to go against the crowd because I believe the crowd is going in the wrong direction. Now, those individuals that's in the crowd are pretty much the same flavor as yourself. But it's the powers to be that's on the outside looking and want to know who the hell is that going against the grain. So when they see you going against the grain, then they want to do anything and everything they can to stop you or to turn you around, to deter you from where you're headed. So therefore, when it came time, if people was to go and do research, I won every 100 everywhere we have gone. Well, I got hurt when the trials first started, the first trials in LA, I was hurt, but I still was able to go. Although I had a torn hamstring, they put me in lane 1 because it was the sharpest lane to try to deter me from making that team. They took Mr. Smith and they put him out in lane 8 because they knew that Mr. Smith needed a rabbit to key on. So they wanted to try and knock both of us out. But by the time I healed, then I'm winning all my races, all the hundreds. Matter of fact, made a deal with Stan Wright. And the deal was, if Mr. Smith and I get 2 other runners, and if we beat the A team in the sprint relay 3 out of 4 times, would you move us up to the relays? That was an understanding that we had. Yes. Oh, Tommy and I went and got, one time we got Bob Beeman to run on our team. I think it was Bob Beeman and Charlie Mays. We beat the A team.
Wow.
Another time we went and got Leon Coleman. We just grabbing people to put on the team to make the 2 other guys up. We beat them 3 out of 4 times. When it came time for us to be moved up to the relay, they never did it. But that's all right because I'm still winning 100. And when I went to the Nationals in Florida, I was hurt. And I told Hilma Lodge, I said, Mr. Lodge, I'm hurt. I really don't want a chance, blowing my leg out again. So I'd like to get a waiver to go and pass up the 100 because at the time you had to run in the Nationals to qualify to go to run this 100. at the trials. I don't want to tear my leg out, so let me get away from Mr. I can't remember his name right now. From the meet director from the Mount Sac Relays, Hillman Lodge, that's his name, right? So now Mr. Lodge says, well, okay, John, no problem. You run the 200 and I'll take care of it so you'll be able to run the 100 when it comes time. So I'm winning, like I say, all over the country. I get up to Tahoe for the trials. We all running, I'm running, doing great. I'm in excellent shape. And I go to the 100 when they start calling the 100-meter people up. I get there and he's calling everybody's name. I don't hear my name. So I said to him, excuse me, sir, you didn't call my name. And he looked at me and said, John, I didn't see your name on the sheet. What do you mean you didn't see my name on the sheet? Look at the sheet again. No, your name is not here. So I'm looking for Mr. Lodge. I get Mr. Lodge and bring him up to Mr. Lodge. What happened, man? My name is not on the sheet. You didn't fill out the paperwork. I said, Mr. Lodge, you told me you would take care of it. You never mentioned anything about paperwork. Hey, that's the end of it. Then years later, I find out through other sources that was connected to Mr. Lodge that they conspired, he and Stan Wright conspired to keep me out of the 100. So Stan's outstanding athlete in the eyes of Jimmy Hines would have an easy walk to the gold medal.
Wow.
You know, and I had to digest that. You know, how am I going to fight that? But at the same time, when it all boiled down, you know, as I stated earlier today, that when everything was said and done and all the debts were settled, my attitude was, Tommy Smith got his gold medal, Peter Norman got his silver medal, Jimmy Hines got his gold medal, and I got my demonstration. So I'm happy about it no matter what, because I'm not eating medals. Medals ain't gonna take me to where I need to be. So, you know, I always felt like anytime they deprive me of anything as far as my athleticism, they really deprived themselves because they never got a chance to see the best of the best.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. These are stories I've never heard before, and this is wisdom and experience that is just unbelievable. We are going to be running out of time here in a minute. There's one other question I want to ask you, and I think this is an important one. With our current situation here in this country, and indeed the world, but I'm talking about America, with the intersection of COVID, racial injustice, and everything that's happening, how do you see the current athletes' responsibility? What is it that they need to be doing, or should they be doing something? Athletes of color, anybody. What's the role of the athletes now, especially those who want to do what you did in a certain way, standing up for social justice? How do you see it? What should they be doing?
Well, let me just be a little more specific in terms of saying, you know, anytime when the athletic syndrome takes part, it's basically the plight of Black athletes that has a concern because the issues that confront society falls on the shoulders of Black athletes. White athletes don't have the same trials and tribulations as the Black athletes do, but what they do have is some sort of sympathy and some sort of concern and some sort of prowess to say it's not right what's happening to them, so I'll stand with them. Understand? But my concern for us as athletes or for Black people in general is to stop flatlining. When I say flatlining, I mean the fact that when Mr. Floyd died, we got that peak. When Breonna Taylor died, we got that peak, and then we flatline. All right? The next person died, we get that peak, we come up. Now, what's happening right now relative to what happened in the state capitol, that divide that we've been talking about for eons of time about it being a double standard now is clear. They can never say it's not a double standard again, just based on that one instance, based on the fact that they had Black Lives Matter held off 4 or 5 blocks away from the Capitol, and they let these people walk right through the glass, okay? But then when it became aware of the trials that we've been talking about for over 553 years, the balloon has grown so big and it raised so high until our plight is known around the world. And my concern is whether we as Black people, Black athletes, have the willingness to keep the helium in the balloon long enough to keep it up there. I don't want to see us flatline. The powers that we had through athletics, which came through modern day, when they had the situation in the basketball game with Mr. Stern When he made the derogatory and racial statements about Magic Johnson, these athletes came together, as I've been saying forever. We have to become one. They became one, and then Cleveland said, "We support you." We made it even bigger, the balloon. Then the Golden State Warriors stepped in. We even gonna make this balloon bigger. Mr. Silver was a smart man because Mr. Silver came in and told the owner, "You got to sell the team." What do you mean sell the team? Sell the team. Why? Based on the derogatory things that you said. Well, Mr. Silver probably said, "Hey man, we all say that." But not the owner of the Clippers is what I'm saying. And then the commissioner says to him, say, "Yeah, but it's a difference. This is all my theory now. It's a difference. And the difference is this. We said ours on the private side of the door. You said yours on the public side of the door. You're going to sell the team." So to show you how valuable what these guys did by coming together, they took a $450 million team and sold it, gave that man $2.3 billion
Right.
in order to get that team to save the league. So these athletes had the power and they flatlined. They didn't realize what they had. Based on where we are right now, I would hope that athletes understand that, hey, man, it's a lot more about doing than it is about saying you're going to do. Understand? And you have to be consistent. Everybody here is telling me about how I've carried myself for so many years. Well, you give me accolades now because I have proven that you can stay in the fight that long and you can stay focused. See, because my whole premise is this. Everything that I've done from the time I was 23 years old when I went to the games, when I went to those Olympic Games, you know what the thought was in my mind? I'm not doing this demonstration for John Carlos. When my kids came into the world, my first daughter, when she came into the world, my life became secondary because I lived life for her to make it a better life for her than it was for my mother and my father. You understand? When I went to Mexico City, I thought about my kids and my kids' kids and their peers
That's
to
awesome.
make it a better life. Someone have to realize that you have to be the sacrificial lamb, as the Bible said there was once a person that was a sacrificial lamb for society. Well, that's what happened there. You know, look into yourself and see what you got to offer, what's on the table. And I tell people it ain't about the time that you was born, it ain't even about the time that you die, but it is about the time that you have between the two of those dates. What have you done with the time you had?
Wow.
Hey,
Mr. Johnson.
it's very rare that we get an opportunity to speak like this. Like, you know, most times we got to hold else because you can't tell your best friend like this is what I'm thinking. To be able to hear it from you, Mr. Carlos, is also like amazing because it's not just about me competing every day. I never went to a track meet to win.
Hey, listen, for
I went
know
to
we
track
running out of
meets
time.
to.
I know we're running out of time. Hey,
It's 10 o'clock.
hey, Lewis,
Yes.
could you flash that poster that I asked Charles to
I
flash?
sure can. It's coming up right now. And tell everybody what this is about.
Yeah. I'm having did you blow it up? You can't blow it up no bigger than that, huh?
Did you just cut me off?
Yes, I did.
You just got cut off.
Beat me up later. This is extremely important here. This is extremely important. I'm sorry. What I was saying, this is a roundtable discussion I'm going to have. You can see the bullet points there. This will take place February 19th. I would hope that everybody would go to my page, johncarlos1968.com, and plug in. This is going to be very enlightening, very important. Have your kids sitting there at the computer as well. Tell your friends, tell your family, even tell your enemies that they need to check in so they can get a chance to see why they're classified as enemies.
Well, I'm gonna leave it up here for a second, John, so everybody can see this roundtable resolutions. Join as we talk strategies surrounding these 13 pillars in Africa and America. And again, the event is on February 19th. It's from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern via Zoom. So what's the website again, John?
John Carlos 1968.
JohnCarlos1968.com. And that's where they can get on. All right. I appreciate that. We all do.
Thank you so much. Now get back to Kenny, because I'm sorry, Kenny. I'll take the whipping later.
Man, for 2 seconds, you know that's gonna happen. It's gonna be a phone call, but But no, it's simply about what you're here for. It's like letting kids know that what people see, we just go compete and we win stuff. That's what people see from the outside. But what we do as a person and an athlete, I don't think they understand the gravity of when I do an interview, speak the King's English at some point, disrespect my brothers and my friends and my family and everything else. It's important to do amazing things. And that's what I saw from you. I see from Charles, I see from Jackie, I see from Mr. Beeman. When we compete, it's just not about, oh, I won, yay, TikTok. Mean that. It's something bigger, and there's a bigger picture, and that's what I think that that what I learned from you of develop and grow and do amazing stuff, and just being a fan, just like I am with, like I said, Charles and Jackie and Mr. Beeman.
Well,
I think it's awesome. I think it's all.
And you know, the greatest thing that we have as athletes, particularly Black athletes, is that we have an opportunity to circle the world. Where 99.999% of the kids in our community, most of them don't even get a chance to get off their block.
Right.
Much more think about traveling the world. I mean, you know, just to think that I had an opportunity to meet Peter Norman way back when I was a youngster out there running, not knowing who Mr. Peter Norman was other than just a regular sprinter. But then to recognize him down the line at the Olympic Games and then say, oh, you know, how I got aware of him again is because he was in a quarter semi with me and I waved him off. I floated through the tape, but he was coming and I waved him off. And out the corner of my eyes, I'm walking by and I see out the corner of my eye, my peripheral vision, he waved me back off. And then I looked at him and I liked his spunk. It wasn't about his color. It wasn't about where he lived. It was about the fact that he had heart. And then when we got to conversing back and forth, it was far beyond athleticism. He showed that he was a man. He was a man's man. And at the same time, I might add,
thank you.
Mr. Norman left this world. Mr. Norman never flinched in terms of his support for what he saw that day, how he involved himself and wrapped himself around us. He never said, oh, I'm sorry for what I did by standing with them. I'm ashamed that I put that button on. I denounced what they did. Peter Norman steadfast to the day he left this world in support of what he felt was right for humanity. All men should realize that. Just like you look at Peter Norman, we didn't try and whitewash him off the poster. That power to be that I told you whitewashed him off the poster for years.
Thank you.
Just the same way that power to be whitewashed Frederick Douglass, right-hand man, was a guy named John Brown. Same eyes, blue eyes, same blonde hair that Peter Norman had, and they did the same thing to him. We can no longer, as human beings, allow this to happen, man. It's time for us to step up and speak up for what's right. And let no color, no money, no religion, no sexual preference, nothing to get in the way of what's right.
Well, I have to tell you, that is, you have spoken some words today to give us all to think. And I think it provides a challenge to everybody on this call to first, you got to be introspective and look at yourself and think about what you represent and what you stand for. And then the same thing as you do for your family. And John, I'm going to wrap it up with this because we do have to close out. We've had the pleasure to speak on several occasions, but I don't remember exactly where it was, but you put your arms around my youngest son, and he never forgot those moments, Lucas. He never forgot the conversation. And then you sent him a poster that you signed of that moment. Lucas is now a college graduate from theater, graduated with honors, and he has moved 3 times. But every time I walk into his dorm room or his apartment, that poster is up on the wall with all the different flags from around the world, the places he's been, because you had an impact on him just from meeting him and the way you embraced him, the way you do all of us. But the messages you gave him told him that he was important and he had an opportunity to make a statement and be significant in his life and his craft, and you inspired him. I had to give him a little bit more meat, put a little bit more meat on the bone and tell him what you did and what it stood for. But we had some great conversations. But that poster travels with him. And I'm sure that when he books, like Hollis's daughter, when he books his first movie or Broadway show, whatever it is, that poster will be up in his green room. I guarantee you. So that's the impact that you've had on people. I know that to be for sure.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. Everybody, I hate to put an end to this. We could probably go another hour, but as I mentioned at the beginning, we were here doing a broadcast and I've got a flight to catch in about an hour and 20 minutes. So I want to just thank everybody for being on once again. Want to thank all these leaping legends. We have had a great time discussing this. I wish we got to do the outtakes of the conversations before we actually come on with you all, because there's a whole lot of laughing and talking and going back and forth. It is hilarious, but it is great for me to witness these legends talk to each other back and forth. So it's our chance to catch up every month. Our bottom line is we hope that you're inspired in some way from things that you hear. When you leave this, get quiet for a few moments to think about what greatness means to you. Think about what greatness means to the people around you and how can you inspire them to be that way. And again, that's why we had John Olive today to talk about what he stood for and how his greatness has gone through the years. Last thing, John, if you give me a quick answer, what did it mean for you to be inducted into the Olympic Hall of Fame, U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame?
Well, for me, man, it was great. Not for me personally, but I think it was great for my wife, for my children, for my mom, my dad, my brothers and sisters. I think they felt that I deserved to be in the Hall of Fame many years ahead.
Yeah.
So I was just honored to know that they have solace in their hearts to know that their brother, their son, their father was inducted as one of the highest athletes in the particular sport that he endeavored in.
All right. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I was on that committee and I was in that room. And before we could go to everybody else, everybody in the room raised their hand and said, stop, we need to vote on this one first. And it was one of the greatest honors of my life as a professional and as a track and field person and one who believes in justice for everybody, to make sure that you were in that class of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. That was one of the greatest moments of my life. And I want to tell you that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have my wife and kids give you a little more prestigious look when they see you next time.
I'm telling you, I don't know if I'm supposed to reveal that or not, but at this point, I don't care. I just want you to know.
And Louis, it don't really matter, man, because you spoke on nothing but truth.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, John, thank you once again for being here with us, and I hope everybody will join him. Thank you all. Charles, you want to have the last word?
Hey, another great conversation. Mr. Carlos, I appreciate you. And as well as everyone on here. Thank you all for joining us. And other than that, just be safe and look forward to next month.
Peace and love. Peace and
Peace
love.
and love. Thank you, everybody. Bob, Jackie, Kenny, thank you guys.
Yes.
And thank everybody for joining. Astrid, thank you for coming. Kevin, Carlos, Chantel, Lonnie,
everybody
Rex,
on the call, we can see
everybody. Christian, Terrell, Natalie, Sue, everybody. Thank you guys so much.
Good night, Mr.
Stay safe, everybody. Talk to you Wednesday.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
See you. Right. Bye-bye.
Be safe, everyone.
Somebody hang up. Somebody hang up.